The partition, Pakistan remained a predominantly Muslim area, almost exclusively Muslim area. India remained, however, true to secularism for the reason, among others, that the political reality, the demographic reality was again the same as it was before the partition. That is, the majority of the people were non-Muslims, but there's a very large population of Muslims, the largest population of Muslims next only to Indonesia. Therefore, the same circumstances, the same set of beliefs, the same historical background and cultural tradition which had made India, the Indian leadership, committed it to secularism prior to 1947, continued afterwards as well.
Examples of secular traditions abound throughout the country. Fatehpur Sikri near Agra. Built almost 500 years ago by arguably the greatest monarch of Indian history. Akbar ruled over most of what is today Pakistan, Bangladesh and even Afghanistan. When he decided to construct his dream capital near the shrine of a Sufi saint, Salim Chishti, he had decided that every turret of the fort, every arch of its doors, every palace in the interiors, virtually the entire construction would be an ode to the pluralistic society that formed his vast empire. The Mughal emperor went a step further to integrate and harmonize his multi-religious subjects by propounding a religious order called Deen-e-Ilahi that borrowed from both Islam and Hinduism, besides other world religions. The professed motive was universal brotherhood.
The success of Akbar essentially lay in this particular fact that he was not a fundamentalist. He was prepared to see the good points, the moral points, the ethical points in other philosophies and religions and others. And when he exposed himself to various books of religion and interacted with what you call representatives of the various religions and others, he did find a beautiful similarity between most of the religions that he had time to examine. And that's how he came out with that idea of Deen-e-Ilahi.
1990s, Banaras. It is the time of Aarti at the holy temple of Kashi Vishwanath. The sounds of conch shells rent the air along with those of traditional cymbals to the accompaniment of the Shehnai. The Shehnai player is housed in a building opposite the great temple. Akin to some other places of religious worship in the world, non-Hindus find restricted entry into the temple. Yet, this Shehnai player is a Muslim. The Shehnai accompanists at the Aarti have traditionally been Muslims. The temple, built by a Hindu queen, Ahilyabai Holkar, was originally more austere. It was Maharaja Ranjit Singh, a Sikh warrior king who had the temple spire plated in gold. In 1998, the Dargah of Nizamuddin Aulia in Delhi. Hazrat Nizamuddin was a Sufi saint who lived in the 13th century. Sufism evolved within Islam in the medieval period. Imbued with a deep sense of humanism, the philosophy preached by the Sufi saints was of tolerance and mutual coexistence. Today, the Indian landscape is dotted with numerous Sufi shrines, places of worship where common folk, both Hindus and Muslims, congregate.
There were certainly pre-existing and developing trends, both within Hindu traditions and within Islamic traditions. moving towards a greater degree of understanding between the two major religious traditions. At local levels, a wide variety of composite religious groups, the ways in which Sufism and Bhakti interacted with each other.
But the tenets of secularism find persuasive arguments in the stories of ordinary people, some of whom have over the years gained mythic proportions. One such was a spiritual poet named Kabir. Abandoned in his infancy, Kabir was adopted by a Muslim weaver and his wife. Kabir, in later years, became a great mystic who preached the essential universality of all religions. 1997, the Golden Temple in Amritsar. The spiritual magnetism of the Granth Sahib draws scores of pilgrims to its holy precincts. Thousands among them are Hindus. These are not isolated islands of harmony. The mutual and dynamic coexistence of various faiths is evident as much at the Golden Temple in Amritsar as in the several festivals that mark the Indian calendar. 1996, Tabo, nestling in the rugged mountains of Himachal Pradesh, celebrating 1,000 years of its glorious existence. Buddhists are a small minority in India today. However, the entire stretch of the Himalayas is dotted with spectacular monasteries. Their rituals are a treat for visitors from India and abroad. And every year, thousands reach for Himis in Ladakh, or Pema Yangtze in Sikkim, or even to distant Tawang in search of peace and salvation. 1993, Shravana Belagola in Karnataka. It is the last anointment ceremony this century of Lord Bahubali. Jains in thousands have gathered from all corners of the country. It is as much a holy pilgrimage as the accompanying sense of celebration that attracts thousands to this hamlet. It is in these encounters that Indians demonstrate the true meaning of unity in diversity. A land which has preserved a kaleidoscope of cultural and ethnic identities. It is this diversity that has provided a great richness and variety to the culture of this land.
India is not a melting pot, but it is a mosaic. It is not that you get everything and you melt it into one uniform religion or uniform thought. No. India has always permitted diversities, and this is why, with this globalization of the world which is taking place, where identities are now striking and wanting to have their own positions in their societies and others, India is the one which is able to offer a history of what you call this coexistence.